Hey everyone. Ever get sucked into those relationship advice podcasts? You know, the kind that's like super entertaining, but also makes you rethink everything you thought about love?
Haha, yeah. I know exactly what you mean.
Well, get ready because today's deep dive is all about that. We're diving into an episode of Real Talk with Lady T.
Lady T. Now, there's a name you hear everywhere. Her and Mr. Tee-riffic. They're like
Yeah.
the power couple of relationship advice.
Right. They've got that whole motivational speaker energy that just pulls you in, even if you're like, wait, do I actually agree with this?
Totally. But that's what makes this deep dive so fascinating. It's like we're getting a glimpse into how everyone thinks about love and relationships and all that messy stuff.
It's like eavesdropping on a cultural conversation.
Exactly. Like, what does it really mean to be in love? What are the signs?
And Lady T and Mr. Tee-riffic definitely have some opinions on that. Like, right off the bat, they're all about effort.
Oh, yeah. Effort is huge for them.
Huge. They basically say, if a man is truly in love, he will prioritize you. No excuses.
No, I'm too busy, allowed.
Exactly. And you know what? It actually makes sense when you think about the investment model of relationships.
Right, the idea that we put more energy into the things and the people that we really care about.
Exactly. Think about it. If someone's always blowing you off or seems distant, you start to wonder, like, do they even value our friendship?
Totally. It's like, am I just the backup plan when you're bored?
Exactly. And Lady T and Mr. Tee-riffic say the same goes for romantic relationships.
Makes sense.
And it's not just about making time either. They also talk about listening and being there for your partner, especially when things get tough.
Oh, for sure. Being emotionally present is so key.
It's like that saying, it's not about weathering the storm, it's about learning to dance in the rain or something like that. I'm butchering it, but you know what I mean.
I get it.
I think Mr. Tee-riffic actually said something like, real love doesn't run for the hills when things get messy. It sticks around to clean up the mess.
And you know what? That's a good point. It's like relationships are a marathon, not a sprint, right?
Totally. And speaking of going the distance, Lady T and Mr. Tee-riffic, they don't stop there. They're also big on respect.
Oh, yeah. Huge. Respect for your boundaries, your values, all of it.
Everything. They basically say, if a man truly loves you, he'll not only respect who you are, but also see a future with you.
Right. Shared goals, dreams, all that.
Yeah.
It's about being on the same page, not just in the moment, but like way down the line.
Long-term compatibility.
Exactly. Which, it makes you wonder, in a world that's constantly changing, how much should we really be banking on those long-term plans?
That's a good point. Like, what if life throws you a curveball?
Exactly. Plans change, people change.
So true. But okay, let's flip the script a bit, kind of like Lady T and Mr. Tee-riffic do in the podcast. They have this whole segment on, like, what a man won't do if he's not really feeling it.
Oh, yeah, the reverse psychology bit.
Yes. Like, if he's not putting in effort, if he's flaky with communication, if he avoids those deep conversations about the future.
Those are some pretty big red flags they point out.
For sure. But then again, every relationship is different, right?
Totally. What might seem like a lack of effort to one person might just be someone else's way of showing love.
Because everyone communicates differently.
Exactly. We all come from different backgrounds, have different experiences.
It's about understanding those differences.
Exactly. So yeah, red flags are important to notice, but it's also about open communication,
Right.
trying to see things from your partner's perspective.
Makes sense.
Now, one more thing that really struck me. They talked about why people stay in relationships that clearly aren't working.
Oh, tell me about it. We've all been there, right? That feeling of, is this salvageable?
It's more common than you think. And it's not just about being afraid of being single or having commitment issues. There's actually some serious psychology at play here.
Like what?
Well, there's the fear of loneliness, which, let's be real, is a powerful human emotion.
We all crave connection.
Exactly. And then there's that thing called the sunk cost fallacy. Sunk cost fallacy. It's basically our tendency to stick with things we've already invested time and energy in, even when it's not really working out.
Oh, like when you keep putting money into fixing a car that's like on its last legs.
Exactly. It's easier to justify staying because you've already put so much into it.
And then there's that little voice, the one that whispers, but what if things change?
The hope for a magical turnaround.
Exactly. Even if deep down you kind of already know the answers, like we're scared to cut our losses, even when it's staring us right in the face.
It's tough, for sure.
Yeah.
But, Lady T and Mr. Tee-riffic, they do try to offer some hope.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
They remind listeners that they deserve to be with someone who brings them joy, someone who's invested in the relationship.
Right. Don't settle.
Exactly. But they're also careful not to, like, give out specific advice or tell people what to do.
Which is probably smart, honestly, because every situation is so unique.
Totally. It's impossible to give a one-size-fits-all answer.
Exactly. Sometimes you just need someone to listen and say, hey, your feelings are valid.
Validation is huge.
Huge. Okay, so as we wrap up our deep dive into Real Talk with Lady T, what are some key takeaways we can give our listeners?
Well, even though their style is very, high energy, a lot of what they say actually aligns with what we know about healthy relationships.
Like putting in effort, valuing communication.
Exactly. Those are the foundations.
Sometimes we need that reminder, though,
Mm-hmm.
especially when we're caught up in the excitement of a new relationship or, just trying to make sense of it all.
For sure. It's easy to get lost in the sauce.
Totally. But I think one thing that's super important that sometimes gets lost in all the relationship advice out there is remembering to invest in the relationship we have with ourselves.
Self-love. That's the most important one.
It really is, because if we don't value ourselves, how can we expect anyone else to?
Exactly. It all starts with us.
Love that. This has been such an interesting deep dive.
It really makes you think.
It does. Like, we just took one episode of a relationship advice podcast and managed to unpack so much about love, expectations, all of it.
It's amazing how these conversations reflect such bigger cultural trends.
It's like holding up a mirror to society or something.
Right. We see ourselves in these stories.
Totally. And on that note, if you're looking for more thought-provoking deep dives into culture, relationships, and everything in between, make sure you're subscribed to the deep dive.
We'll be back next week with a brand new episode.
Until then, keep those conversations going. And remember, the most important relationship you'll ever have is the one you have with yourself.
Couldn't agree more. See you next time.